Everything's a distraction for everything. They're always distracting from something that they don't want you to see. And I'm like, why, Donald? Why don't you want people talking about this? I think the war, for Trump to do it, there has to be serious influence there. Be it foreign government influence or the influence of wanting to distract from things that are not good for him. When I had John Kiriakou in here the week before Iran broke out, he obviously reported it on my show that the decision had been made. He ended up being 3 days early. He said it was going to be Monday or Tuesday. It ended up being Friday night. He was 100% right. I wanted him to be wrong so bad, but I knew he wouldn't be. I knew it.
Look, I'm all for UFO, UAP disclosure. I push that. It's a big part of my life. But all of a sudden, Obama steps in and releases UFO, UAPs, and then the president tasks the, I'm friends with Pete. I love Pete. But president tasks Pete to investigate and release these files and working with Congress to release these files. It's like, here's something they wanted. And I just, it's hard for me to believe that's not a distraction.
It's very, well, it is. I mean, suddenly I want the alien redactions too. I want the disclosure. I've been asking for that forever.
But if I have to pick what redactions I want, I'm picking the Epstein. I want these children.
Let's stay with the soup du jour right now. Let's stay with that. Let's stay with the thing that society is literally hinging on. I completely agree.
And by the way, I don't care about the Dow. I care about the Dow, but I don't care about it when we're talking about children.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And it's like, everything's a distraction for everything. And that's as old as time. They're always distracting from something that they don't want you to see. And now my alarm bells have always been up on that, but they are on a blinking 12 at all times on a 1 to 10 scale about what they're doing. And when some people I know were like celebrating, oh, look, Trump's giving us the alien files. I'm like, you're not going to get shit in whatever files he claims he's giving you right now, because this is all, he doesn't want people talking about this. And I'm like, why, Donald? Why don't you want people talking about this? If you have nothing to hide, and Trump doesn't strike me as a guy who's, I don't even mean this as a shot, but like, if he has friends that, get caught up doing some dumb shit, he doesn't strike me as the guy jumping on a grenade for him.
Right.
So why is he jumping on the grenade with this one? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're not going to, the American people, it's kind of a message to him. The American people are not going to let it go. We're not going to move on, and we shouldn't. And he has to know that the constituent base that voted him in, we voted him in. One of the reasons we voted him in is I feel like he had a finger on the pulse of what America wanted.
Yes.
America wanted transparency. They want justice back.
Yes.
They don't want a two-tier justice system. These are the things that he promised and we voted for him. So I feel like he's either lost his finger on the pulse of what the American people want, or he's just, someone is influencing him to, whoever that second and third tier or second and first tier is, influencing him to push the American people to move on.
Yeah, I think it's a litany of things. I think it's that. I think he took a lot of money from AIPAC and organizations like that as well. When you get $100 million from Miriam Adelson, that's not free, and then she gets a seat right behind Obama and, swearing in, like, that is what it is. And people are awake to that kind of thing now. We want America to deal with America's problems. And that's what his base wanted too. And like, when I was talking to people in the build up to that election in 2024, you could feel that, because there were a lot of people that weren't even from his base who just wanted those things. And they're like, you know what? I don't even like this guy, but I'm going to vote for him. And I'm like, I fully understand why. I mean, things got crazy.
Well, if you know he's going to win, you have to be in a position if you need things to get done. And I think it's where AIPAC, and I mean, I'll just ask you straight up, because you seem to have a good pulse on this. I mean, does AIPAC and Israel have more influence over the White House than the American people?
Right now? Yes.
Now. Yeah.
Absolutely. The evidence shows that way. Yeah. Listen,
we are the extension of the Israeli government.
The IRGC and the Iranian government can off all the way to hell. These are terrible people who've done awful things to their people. They ran a revolution in 1979 on a lie, and then held an iron grip over their people and to this day imprison and torture people.
Including American citizens.
Including American citizens. And if they all died tomorrow, there would not be a single tear shed from me. I didn't shed a tear for Khamenei getting his ass whacked the other day at all. Yeah. I would love, and I've said this forever, I would love to see the Iranian people rise up and overthrow their government. Mm-hmm. That's how it has to happen, though. Mm-hmm. You are a veteran. You've been over there. You've seen what happens when we go in and we try to bomb the place out and rebuild a government our way, which doesn't work out because you have morons in suits back in DC handling things. And the fact of the matter is, whether it's convenient or not, the Iranian government has proven time and time again that while they are very annoying and they do some stupid like try to send undercover people to America to kidnap Masih Alinejad because they don't like what she says about them, they pose no threat to America. No threat. There are some financial ties there, but when you're talking oil and if we really got into the weeds and how that pertains to China and particularly in Russia as well, for sure, there's that. But they're not sending any bombs here. They were not close to getting a nuke. If you look at like the Stuxnet hacks that we did to them in 2012, 2013, it's hilarious. It reads like a comedy movie. Read Andy Greenberg's book where he discusses that. He put that in his book Sandworm. And then there's another longer book by another author that goes through it. I forget what her name is, but goes through the whole thing. Like it reads like a comedy movie, what we were able to do to them from the NSA to hack their centrifuges and blow them up right in front of their face. Like they pose no threat to America. Yes, they do pose a threat to Israel. That's true. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm not sending our military over there to fight your wars again and again and again and again. And this is where I run into a problem, though, with everyone on this particular topic when it pertains to the Middle East, but particularly Israel. You have two camps. You have the camps of like radical Zionists, and then you have the camps of like destroy Israel. We think it's the worst country on earth. The radical Zionists will just direct all your attention to Iran, Qatar, and China and say, well, aren't you worried about all that? And I say, yes. And then they look at me like I have 10 heads because I'm willing to criticize Israel. They're like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, yes, I'm worried. I'm worried about all that, particularly China. Okay? I'm not necessarily worried tomorrow about Iran or Qatar or something like that. But like, am I worried about how they operate for Iran in particular? Am I worried about how they operate on their people? Sure. Not my problem. China is. And they're like, oh, wow. Like, cool. And then I talk to the people who are like anti-Zionists. And they're like, why aren't you worried about all the shit Israel does to us and the AIPAC and the control? I said, yes, huge problem. They're dragging us into endless wars, huge problem. Give them the fuck out. But I'm worried about China and all that too. And they're like, wait, what? How could you be? It's everyone who's a problem for this place right here. Everyone. And their problems in different ways. The one that I think pisses people off about Israel is they make all the politicians do the dance and whatever and say, this is our greatest ally. Israel has a right to defend itself, you know? And then they're doing things that are not necessarily what an ally would do. Mm-hmm. Allies don't drag allies into a endless war again, you know? And when I had John Kiriakou in here the week before Iran broke out, he obviously reported it on my show that the decision had been made. He ended up being 3 days early. He said it was going to be Monday or Tuesday. It ended up being Friday night. He was 100% right. Yeah. And I got a call from another source the next night saying it's not going to be Monday or Tuesday, but the he's saying is right.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be wrong so bad, but I knew he wouldn't be. Mm-hmm. I knew it. I knew he wouldn't be because walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. And the difference between 2026 attack in Iran and 2003 attack in Iraq is 2003, there was still no social media. Okay. All of our guys, when you were serving and things like that, first of all, I always say this, it is never the soldier's fault for what suits decide to do.
These men and women that are out there right now, they're doing their job. What they raised their hand to do. They're doing their job and they're doing it well.
Yep.
And everybody needs to be praying for them because it's crazy what they're. I mean, what
damn right.
They're not just facing Iranian technology. They're facing Chinese technology and everybody else in place. Yeah, and
it's never their fault. And I'm so crystal crystal clear on that. And I think sometimes when people fight about this on Twitter, they forget about the real lives that are out there in the middle of this thing. They don't make these decisions. Point being,
even
though,
Pete, Pete's a bro of mine. Like he's in charge of Secretary of War. I mean, he gets tasked to do that job. He's gonna do it well.
Yeah, I would imagine he ain't making the final order here. I don't imagine. I know that's the case, but particularly the soldiers. I can have political differences with other guys in government, but particularly the people out there on the front lines fighting it, it's not their fault. But the difference between 2003 in Iraq and 2006 in Iran is that the 2026 version of the U.S. military, they all have social media too. They all have the internet too. They know damn well that we are doing something that is not for us right now. And I think that's a big problem for morale. And the fact that, it's just so brazen that like it's going to take a few weeks sounds a lot like 2 weeks to stop the curve. Let me tell you something, man. And I don't need to tell you. You could lecture me a lot more on this than I could on you. Iran ain't Venezuela, pal. You know what I mean? Like when I'm hearing them talk about this, I'm like, buddy, this is not a country of 30 million people in South America where there aren't religious, social, holy, cultural wars. This is a 92 million person Middle Eastern nation smack dab in the middle of the world's largest conflict across all different kinds of special interests that exist there on a range from Iran to Saudi Arabia to Israel to the UAE. There is so much going on there, and then don't even get me started on China and even Russia a little bit. It's like, you think you're just going to waltz in there? Oh, you took out Khamenei? That's awesome. They got a whole military behind that, and they're pissed. And it's funny, when you get me to the point where I have to logically defend someone in the current Iranian government, you have, like, there was a guy, I don't even remember who it was, someone high up in the Iranian government getting interviewed on like ABC the other day while all this bombing's breaking out and Iran's bombing back. They just killed Khamenei. And they're like, sir, why don't you just stop the bombing? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they go, well, you could just stop the bombing right now. He's like, you bombed us. What do you want us to do? We have to bomb back.
Well, I think a lot of those things are probably preset triggers, right? When all the U.S. bases it was simultaneous. It was probably a push button, like in case of emergency. That's what's going to happen. And we knew that, right? We knew that as soon as we launched, they're going to launch into every place in the U.S. military base, and it did. Yeah. And so we have to know that's coming. I really go back to the motivation because when I look at it, I look at it from a counterintelligence standpoint. I do believe, not to completely disagree with what you said, but Iran has been the number one funder of terrorism. So we've seen terrorism against, maybe not here on U.S. soil, maybe not, but we've seen against U.S. military all around the world.
That is true.
And so, but that's not a reason to bomb the nation over that. There's a counterterrorism effort that takes place, and we've been doing that, right?
Feels like we've had a decent lid on that, though.
I think we have. I agree with you. I think
they're funding it. That's very clear. You're 1,000% right about that, and people like to ignore that, so it's an important point. But we've had, from a, I don't know, precautionary standpoint, a pretty good record.
I feel like we have. At some point, you say, well, we would cut the head off the snake, but there's lots of ways to do that. And sanctioning has been one. We've been laxed on the sanctioning up until now. But
well, actually, can I cut in there?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
This is what's really interesting. And I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, so I want to keep this high level so I don't mess this up. I want to make sure the information's correct. And if people are in the comments right now and can provide more context, definitely do that because we don't have Deef here today. But we upped sanctions. Scott Bessent went and bragged about upping sanctions on, basically, I'm going to call it, to simplify it, the currency wars.
Right.
This is a few months ago. And he laughed about it. And he talked about how he was basically going to reduce the Iranians' currency to zero, which was going to cause massive internal strife, joblessness, inflation through the roof, and rebellion against the regime, which then the regime is very bad. So they do bad things,
right? Which
would then force the regime, who are not good people and don't care about human lives, to kill their own people. And it's like, Yes, they deserve a ton of blame of that because they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But who lit the match? And why are you laughing about that at a Davos meeting?
Yeah.
That's up. And that's the thing. Chad, one thing I really don't like to do is pretend the world is this simple place or whatever, and that I got all the answers. Man, I'm a podcaster. I sit in a seat that doesn't even have an armchair on it. You know what I mean? But like, we just don't seem to learn our lessons with how to handle these things. We want to just rub our finger in the wound because it feels good. It feels good to rub our finger in the wound with Vladimir Putin, regardless of what that's going to force him to do. He's a bad guy. I don't like him. He's a dictator. He kills his own people when they go against him. I don't like any of that. But that's the reality. He's in charge of that country. So you have to know what you're dealing with. And it's not to be like, oh, let's go Munich Agreement with Hitler. That's not what I'm saying. But you also have to know who's not Hitler.
Right.
Because Hitler himself, by the way, wouldn't have been Hitler if Germany wasn't the fastest growing GDP with the greatest technology in the world. Okay? Russia, for example, has a GDP the size of Italy. No offense. They're not like that.
That's what it is, yeah.
It is what it is, right? So you can deal with the devil you know and hate it, but get to a better solution, or you can feel good and react with anger and just punch the devil over and over again and get a horrible result for many more people, but you'll feel better about it at home because you feel like a tough guy. It's a very hard thing because human nature says punch him.
Right.
But like, this is what we do over and over again. And we did it with Iran over and over again too. And it's like, you have to understand it's on the people.
Right.
And I don't say that lightly or meanly.
Well, they were doing it too.
They were trying.
So like what I was saying was like the motivation is everything. Like if that wasn't our motivation, what do you speculate the motivation was? I mean, there's lots of theories out there. Is it geographical control of that region? Is it Israel's pushing us to fight their war? Is it we just got this Venezuelan crude oil, now we need the oil from Iran? Like that kind of brings, puts America in a really good petro financial situation if we have control of both that heavy crude in Venezuela and the oil in Iran. Like what do you think the motivation is? Or speculate?
I think it's all that.
All that.
I think it's all that. I think the war, because war is politically the most unpopular thing you can do at any time, but particularly right now in America, we are as isolationist as the most isolationist we've been since the mid-late 30s.
Well, did we vote America first? I kind of voted for America first. I did.
Right. And I say that thinking about the isolationism a lot of people felt during the second half of Vietnam and stuff like that. I think you even really have to go back to the 30s to see how isolationist people are on both sides of the spectrum in different ways. For Trump to do it, there has to be serious influence there. And that influence comes from, be it foreign government influence or the influence of wanting to distract from things that are not good for him. And I think that those are logically really what it is. And then, yes, do you get, if you're looking at it empirically, like, I don't know if that's a real word for what I'm saying, but like from an imperialism standpoint, yes, they got a lot of oil. And yeah, very interesting, the Venezuela timing now to open those doors back up ahead of doing something like this. It's a very, it's like, well, because you see Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz right now. Hormuz, I never know how to say it. And now global oil trade's being thrown off the wheels. We'll see how that turns out. But like, there's now a back door to being able to tap into Venezuela's oil, I guess, forming with some of the multinationals, our companies and stuff like that. I got to look into that more, but like that seems like pretty interesting timing to tap into the world's biggest oil reserves with that January 2nd hit.